Well, the Observer says this: Jeff Jarrett was in the news over the weekend, but I can also tell you that we heard that Jarrett was gone before this happened. Most felt he wasn't coming back when they dropped using the GFW name. Jeff was supposed to work shows in Calgary and Edmonton for Real Canadian Wrestling. Jeff told people he was held up at customs at the airport for 3 hours on October 20th and told he had to fly back the next morning, which would mean he would be missing Edmonton. When he got to the show the first night, he told the promotion that somebody tipped off customs and they held him. That isn't that unusual for wrestlers or people affiliated with shows to get held for a while, but usually it's an hour. The first time UFC came to Montreal, Stitch Duran, the famous cut man, and myself were both held for about an hour, and they went through everything. And a ton of people who said they were coming in for UFC was held as fear of violence for some reason. But I'm told it was very unusual for someone to be held for 3 hours. Jarrett showed up in Calgary, and the story was he started drinking vodka, polishing off a few bottles, and passed out backstage and was in no condition to perform. He woke up and still wrestled at the show. Of course he did. When his music played and he didn't come out, his opponent actually said Jarrett was upstairs getting drunk. He did the match, which had a ton of stalling, and at one point Jarrett lost his balance on a body slam spot. There were some Lance Storm students there, so Jarrett got the idea of doing an angle where some heels jumped him and Storm students would save him. He cut a promo after about how he and Storm were tight to make sense of it. He was tight with the Hart family. Storm wasn't even at the show, and the fans didn't know Storm students. Jarrett told the promotion he'd be missing Edmonton, and the promotion sent out a release stating that. However, the promotion claims they called Customs to discuss what happened, and Customs told them they had no clue about that story and claimed that Jarrett changed the flights on his own to go home early. I don't know what happened, what didn't happen. What do you remember about what happened in Canada?
So, Conrad, I just referenced outpatient for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I finished that on a Tuesday, and Friday got on a plane to go to Edmonton. Calgary and Edmonton. Went from here to Minneapolis. No big deal. There was supposed to be maybe a 90-minute delay. Ended up being like a 3.5 minute delay. Worked in the Delta Lounge. I was just in that Delta Lounge not long ago. No big deal. Didn't think about alcohol. Got on the plane. They rushed to board us. As I recall this, as I've been taught treatment, never forget your last drunk, ever. Know every detail. Conrad, I could do hour discussion on this, but we won't. But as the stewardess came by, Mr. Jarrett, can I get you anything to drink? I responded, ordered my drink, and drank from Minneapolis to Calgary, landed, and did go through customs. That's why I'd never read that till research today, that the promoter called, and I'm sure they did, and called the customs, but I remember specifically going through customs, and the guy goes, "Why are you you're telling me you're going to Edmonton?" I'm like, "Yep, work there tomorrow night." And he says, "Well, you don't have any record." We went back and forth, and I'd been drinking, but he said, "You go and work your show tonight, but you come back here." And he says, "I'm working in the morning as well. I want to see you here at the airport at 5:30. And I said, "I can't make the other shot." And he goes, "No." He said, "You do your shot here today because I can't get you out of the airport. You don't need to be waiting around here all day. But I'm telling you, you be back here tomorrow or you're going to be in big trouble." And I'm like, okay. But in my mind, that just gave me kind of as crazy as it may be. All right, I'm not going to Edmonton. My buddy picked me up. We went to a restaurant. I went to a liquor store, went to the show, kind of all that mess. And I got dropped off back at the airport at midnight. Maybe a little bit after that, maybe 1 o'clock. It was snowy that night. And sat in the terminal of the airport for going through customs. And that was the beginning of the end. That was on a Friday, Saturday morning, went into treatment that following Tuesday. I could go into much greater detail, but it was a complete mess. No alcohol in my system for the better part of 6 weeks, and then went off the deep end. And that is really, as I look back, the absolute proof maybe that I needed to understand the disease, because I had zero power once that first drink went down. I mean, zero.
The promoter's name here in Canada is Steven.
Yep.
And he says that he's going to claim that Abyss is being offered to them as a make good by Impact. So shout out for him putting on the Burrow jersey and coming in.
And Scott was involved. You know, they had to clean, like you said about Karen, they had to clean up my mess, and it was a real mess. And I hate it. It's you know, that this is the valley. I mean, this is the valley of the valley of the valley. And Conrad, I won't cry today because you've got me there. But when I really look back on it, from that Minneapolis Delta Lounge of zero alcohol to getting on that plane, in that blink of an eye, my life changed forever. Didn't know it at the time. But had I not stepped off that cliff and gone into that valley for the next 4 days, and look, you were involved, Bruce was involved, Brian James. I obviously can't thank him enough. So many people. It goes without saying, Karen and the treatment, all that kind of stuff. But had I not walked into that dark valley, I don't think I'd be alive today.